Arizona Antiquities, Arizona, 1891. Ruins of temple 10,000 years old found near Yuma. An interesting discovery of the ruins of a prehistoric city has just been made on the Colorado Desert near Yuma. The wind has laid bare the walls and remains of stone buildings for a distance of 420 feet in length by 260 feet in width. Gigantic pillars, quaintly carved to represent dragons' heads and rattlesnakes, still stand in the sands of the desert, supporting on their tops huge slabs of granite weighing many tons. The frieze ornamentation resembled Egyptian sculpture and exhibited a great degree of skill than is possessed by the Indian artisans of the present day. Fragments of pottery were found underneath the debris. The southwestern corner of the United States offers a most interesting field to archaeologists, which has scantily yet been touched. In Arizona, there may be found some of the oldest ruins in the world. According to Mr. Cushing, who has spent some months in investigating them, there are more than 10,000 years old. Although, of course, this is to a great extent guesswork. Yeah, exactly. It is guesswork, but it's incredibly ancient. And there, imagine how deep down this temple goes, because, I'll finish off with some of the stuff that's really, really deep. Just to give you an idea, we're talking, these buildings go 100 feet down. The remains of great canals and reservoirs can be plainly traced for many miles. So accurately were these works constructed that in many cases modern engineers have utilized canals without changing the grade in the least. Just think about that. How old and perfect were these canals made? And if you didn't see my preview, you should go back and watch it. Really incredible. Some of these canals were burnt. So going back to the Chinese relation again, and the dragon's heads and the Chinese rattlesnakes and the pottery that resembled Chinese pottery, and the hair of the giant six-toed man wearing the bishop's mitre and the Egyptian snake, all this cross-platform iconography here. You're seeing very similar things here. The canals were all constructed in a form like terracotta. I'm sure some of you are familiar, but that is a form that was perfected in China, in the East. And all the canals were laid with cobblestone, and the clay was burnt to a absolutely perfect terracotta-like consistency. So you're dealing with construction that is insanely advanced, as we touched on with the rose granite tomb that was so perfect it looked like one giant block. Canals that are maybe 10,000 years or older that are still so perfect they can use them, and they're using them today. They were using them in Phoenix. They were digging them out in Phoenix in the 1800s. Just digging them out. No, this is great. We don't need to change this. These are perfect. Thousands of miles of these canals are so perfect they're still used. Yes, the rivers and canals here too, even mentioned in a local history book. Yeah, and it's thousands of miles. I mean, you saw the one I mentioned at Casa Grande. Just that one, just to feed that one city, was a 40-mile canal. And this is everywhere. Hundreds and hundreds of cities, millions of occupants. I mean, and can you imagine what this looked like? I mean, this is your Babylon and your Nineveh. This is your terraced gardens. This is your merchants traveling on boats on these beautiful canals. This place, just picture it. For hundreds of miles, millions of people traveling on these canals. I mean, this place looked unbelievable. Unbelievable. The origin of these remarkable works is and must apparently remain wrapped in mystery. The present Indian inhabitants of the territory have no definite tradition in regard to the race of people who constructed them, though there is a vague tradition that the builders were driven north by the incursions of a race of warlike people from the south. Some believe that the cliff dwellers of northeastern Arizona and New Mexico, about whom many interesting articles have recently been written, are the descendants of the ancient people who thousands of years ago made the arid mesas of Arizona blossoms as the rose. Arizona should receive more attention than it has from American antiquaries. There are many curious works there, the reason for the existence of which nobody has yet been able to explain. In the mountains near Tucson is a perfectly preserved hut built entirely of large seashells, which must have been brought from hundreds of miles from the Gulf of California. No one has been able to offer an explanation of how or why these shells were carried such a long distance, or what mysterious race of people went to so much trouble. A careful investigation of these remains in our neighboring territory might throw some light upon the vexed of the origin of the population of the North American continent. So yeah, here's what AI gave when I put dragon head column. Just pretty cool. And then seashell, a hut made of seashells. But still, I mean, imagine, this just like kind of gives a little more credence to California being an island and bringing that Gulf of California or the um, quite a bit closer to this region. Seems very likely. Again, there are parts of Arizona that have been hit by tidal waves, very, very large ones. And, not to mention incredible lava flows. People don't quite understand that there are lava flows covering large parts of Arizona that are hundreds of feet deep. I mean, imagine what lies beneath them. Now in Oregon and in California, we've shown that 2, 3, 400 feet below lava flows, they find ancient cities. They found one in Oregon that had Phoenician iconography and Chinese. Again, we're talking about the same groups of people here, you guys. Um, you know, we're talking about Solomon. The oldest masonry, the oldest iconography of masonry is from the Americas. Was King Solomon's Ophir here in America? It definitely seems probable. I'd even go as far as to say that perhaps Solomon's temple was built here.